senses function at their peak capacity. So that is the sensitiveness that I am talking about, not the sensitivity of the mind, the sensitivity of your feelings towards your fellow beings, the sensitivity you have towards the animals, to the flowers, the plants. That is not what I am talking about. The sensitivity of the sensory perceptions is lost because of the constant interference of thought. When once the thought ceases to manipulate the sensory activity, then you see the senses function at their peak capacity. The whole of your living organism is an extraordinarily sensitive mechanism responding to everything that is happening there. And your Vedas are, the chantings or whatever you want to call it, those phrases are chosen by the people to activate some of these things. Maybe, I don't know, I can't say anything about it. As far as I am concerned, whether I am listening to the Vedas or something else, or the roaring of an ocean, or the breeze, you see, or the lightning, the thunder, you see, all kinds of things are affecting the body. Because this body is not separate from the things around. See, the distance probably does not matter. I can't say anything. There are certain limitations here. The body has a certain limitation. So when there is an outburst of energy inside, it's like a river in spate, you see. So a river in spate is lashing against the banks of the river. That is why when there is a sudden outburst of energy, which is not the result of any particular activity of yours, but just, you see, it happens, and then it lashes against the framework of the body, which has a limitation, and that is why it is a very, very painful thing. It's a very painful thing. It's a tortuous thing. You don't call it pain in the sense in which we use the word pain. Pain and pleasure. It falls into neither the pleasurable nor the painful one. The pain I am talking about is completely different. So the body has a limitation. The frontiers, the borders of the thought are not there. But the frontiers of the body and the limitations of the body are there. And so that is why it is a very, very painful experience when there is a sudden outburst of energy.
Even some people lose their sense of balance.
Sense of balance?
They behave in a mad fashion. Something has gone wrong with his sadhana, this and that.
Before this, you see, you flip, the chances of flipping are more than flying. You see. Because you are playing with the chemistry of the body. That is why I am against all those things, you see. The yoga, meditations. If one does those things seriously, very few people do seriously, and then there is a danger of flipping. That may be the reason why they have insisted on staying with a guru. Maybe, I don't know. Your question is not very clear to me. You see, this body is not an isolated point in the totality of the electromagnetic field. What creates or what gives you the impression that it is an isolated point is because the thought is creating an isolated point there. It is separating, you see, from the totality of the things. And so the idea of integrating these two things to me has no meaning. It is already an integrated unit. So what you are trying to do is to separate yourself from that and then try to integrate these two things.
No, not necessarily. No. You see, the gist of what all I have understood is our thoughts, our knowledge, our trying to do certain things in some beliefs is the one that is causing the separation.
Yes.
And we have to do away with it.
Yes.
No, but the thing is how to go about it. Yeah. See, that is where See?
The question how is the stumbling block. You see, that is a very, very clever thing. It is only interested in continuity. So when you come to a point where you think there is an impasse, you ask the question, how can I break through this impasse? So the how implies continuity. That is the basic question, the how, the why and what. These are the three basic questions. You always put these questions to yourself, how, why and what, and wait for an answer for these questions, either from within or from outside. So when this realization, or whatever you want to call it, dawns on you, that no outside agency can be of any help to find an answer for your questions, the helplessness that you feel because of your dependence on outside agency also goes with it.
He was only thinking, you see, when the child just has to know how to step, you are going to give that three-wheeler.
Yes.
Once it starts walking, it has of no use.
Yes. I know all those similes.
So I was thinking, you see, maybe there are certain things which are means to an end, but see, if you entirely depend on that, you would be dependent on that only, and you can never become.
The very question which you are asking, how, means time. You see, I don't know.
It comes to the same word.
The time. It's because the questioning mechanism there has come into being in the course of time. In the course of time. So that cannot conceive of the possibility of finding an answer or a solution for that question except in terms of time. There is no answer to that question, how, then the how cannot stay there. It is that how I was talking about, that one thought. If it remains as one without splitting itself into two, then that does the trick. Nobody has any answer for that question. You have to come to that point, the outside agency cannot help at all, because the answers given by others or by me or by anybody, those are not the answers, otherwise the question wouldn't be there. This is what I'm trying to emphasize. So they are not the answers. When they are not the answers, how can this question remain there? So you don't brush aside those answers, reject those answers, because you are rejecting the man who has given the answers. See? The authority of some scriptures which you have taken for granted is in jeopardy.
Sir, if I can talk about myself, all those things are not existing. You see, there was a time, but you see, I have found the usefulness of that thing is past.
All right.
I have taken that way only.
All right.
Or shall we say, we are still, you see, in space for this understanding's sake. There is the moon, there is this earth. It has a certain magnetic field and that has certain fields. And you see, we are gyrating, and you see, because of some centrifugal forces, we are coming away and away from. The moment I have come away from the Earth's gravity, the other action it just pulls.
Yes.
Shall we say something like that?
All that you are.
Without our effort, we are pulled.
All that you are saying is valid when you fix up one point there.
Yes.
You see, that is the most important. That is the most important thing. So all that you are saying is only in relationship with this point. So I am questioning this point. This point itself. So when this point is not there, everything else becomes irrelevant. That is probably what Shankara or whoever the person responsible for talking of Maya, meant it. You see, the measure. Maya means measure. So you cannot measure anything without a fixed point. You see, only in relationship with that you can measure. You see, so anything you experience in this field of measurements is an illusion. I don't know.
Yes.
I make myself clear. Not that this world is an illusion, or you see, you get this pain is an illusion, or that man sitting there is an illusion. It is not in that sense. I am not interpreting this, the text or the statements of others. That is not an illusion. Anything you experience based upon this belief is an illusion. So this point is not there. That is all that I am saying. I can say that this is an illusion, but you cannot accept that. How can you accept that? It is so real to you. It cannot be an illusion to you. I can repeat this 10,000 times, but it has no value. That point is not there at all.
Because many a thing, you see, which we cannot do by that method, we will also say, this is not the correct one. If you do it, you are only having the illusion that you will.
You see, because it is this point which is thought. The moment the thought is born there is space and there is time. So the very fact that you and I are functioning in this three-dimensional space cannot be directly experienced by you. I use the word directly, deliberately and advisedly, because there is a danger of misinterpreting that word directly. That means you assume that there is another way of experiencing things. Directly you can't experience the fact that is so many meters long, so many meters wide, so many meters high. So somebody says the distance from here to your place is 5 kilometers. That statement cannot be experienced by you at all. I don't know if I made myself clear.
Yes.
So you have to fix a point here. This is the point, and from this point you see that point is 5 kilometers. But this fact of the distance of 5 kilometers cannot be experienced by you directly.
Yes.
So this is the most important thing. The point is the most important thing. Without that, you see, there is no circumference. You are all the time moving on the circumference, trying to reach the center. But if this is knocked off, there is no point, there is no circumference.
You say we have lost the bearings.
You have lost the bearings. So this is the most important thing. Is the point there, the self or whatever you want to call it, the I, the mind or psyche, use whatever word you want. So that itself is questionable, because whatever you experience of what you call self or whatever name you give it, is created by the knowledge. So what is there is only the knowledge and nothing else.
Derived from
I am not using the word in the Vedantic sense. The knowledge about yourself and the knowledge about the world around you. So it is that you are fighting. The ending of knowledge is the death. That is why death is a very important thing. Unless you die, you cannot understand anything. That death is not a psychological death, but a physical death, because you see the physical body is involved. It's not just going to happen like that, you see. So the whole of your physical organism is involved. When that how has no answer, that how itself is the Redeemer. You understand? So it cannot move, it cannot split itself into two. That is the question of all questions. How can I understand? How can I resolve this problem? So unless you reject completely and totally any help from outside agency, however extraordinary it may be, you cannot proceed at all. You can't say, I reject this, that is nonsense, this is nonsense, this is absurd, that is absurd. You cannot say that. The outside agency you are talking about is there inside of you. That question, how, is there in every cell in your body, in every nerve end in your body. This is all that I am trying to say. That how is not going to disappear just like that. When that how disappears, It blasts every gland, every nerve, every cell in your body. It's not just an intellectual question, how?
It's an integral part.
It's the whole of your being is that question, how? I don't know. It's not just ask an intellectual question, how, but that how is the whole of this mechanism. So then it has got to find an answer, if there is any answer. How is the sound you are talking about? How is, the vibration. So if it has no answer, the whole mechanism is one vibration. So thought is time. So the moment the thought is born, it wants time. So how is this how going to disappear?
There is no
So time.
There is no time.
When there is no thought, there is no time. When there is no thought, there is no space. So in that sense, thought is time, thought is space. It is bound to create the space.
And that is the one that is separating.
That is the one that is separating. So it is the thought that separates you from the totality of the things and then invents this idea of integrating the two in time. That means nothing is going to happen at all. Nothing is going to happen at all. So is it possible for you not to separate yourself? So the death and birth, the ending of births and deaths that people are talking about is not the soul or Atman or I don't even remember those. It's not that soul, but every time the thought is born, you are born. You understand? So the thought in its very nature is a short-lived thing. It has to go. You do not let that go, the thought. So the only way you can maintain the continuity of the thought is through this constant demand for experiencing things. I don't know if I make myself.
Yes.
That's the only way it can maintain itself. You see, actually there are no two things. There is only one movement of thought. There is nobody who is reading those thoughts. The question you are asking how is not separate from the questioner. When the question how remains as one, that's all that I am talking about. You see, without splitting itself into two. The splitting itself into two means the questioner and the question.
Both are
So the how demands time. Because you don't know. If you knew, you wouldn't ask that question. So they are so interrelated. So is there anything that you can do to prevent this separation and the isolation? There isn't anything that you can do through any volition of yours. That's all that I'm saying. So it is there that the luck, I use the word luck not in the general sense of the word, some strange chance. That is the duality that I'm talking about, not soul and so when this comes to an end, that is the end. The immortality that those Upanishads talked about, I don't want to use it because you think that I'm interpreting. So when once it dies to this duality, what is there is an immortal thing. Not that there is something which becomes immortal, but life is immortal because it has no beginning, it has no end. But the thought has a beginning and it has an end. So that is what is probably meant by the births and deaths coming to an end. So not that you see, even this life, next life, third life, fourth life. Not at all, you see. So every time the thought is born there, you are born. It is not permanent, it is disconnected, disjointed thing.
It's a continuous.
You give a continuity which is not there, which is very superficial, because if you don't know what you are, looking at either inside or outside, that you is coming to an end. That is why it doesn't want to face that. The death that you are frightened of has got to happen here and now. At this moment, the death not of any soul or anything, the death of the knowledge you have about yourself and about the world. It's difficult to put across. So then there is no such thing as death for the mind. The body may last for 30 years, 40 years, it has a momentum of its own. Then the body is not yours. Whose body it is? It is one of the many things that are there around you. So this is naturally responding to everything that you can cover yourself with 10 blankets. If there is a lightning out there, the lightning is there inside of you. You see the light there inside of you. You know? So you really don't know whether the things are happening out there or inside. If you talk in this strain to the psychiatrist, they think you are crazy.
Sometimes such a thing happens, but it is not. Like sometimes such a thing happens. Suppose I hear a sound from outside, a dog barking or some sound. See, momentarily have a feeling it is not coming from there.
You are yourself barking, as it were, not that you don't bark.
Yeah.
You are yourself.
Correct.
That is originating here inside of you.
That is momentary.
Not this is what exactly I mean by the ending of the separation. See, you don't know whether that is the eyes may be looking at the dog. The ears may be listening to that.
The origin instead of
the origin. Where is that origin? You see, this is where you are out there or here. You really don't know. You understand? So that is the separation. The separation is absent, except when there is a need for it, and that need is not self-initiated, but that need is there when there is when the situation demands. That's all. You are finished. You have no more any self-initiated actions. You may think that I am initiating the actions by myself, but not initiating any actions. So, basically it is a unitary movement. What isolates you from what you are looking at and what is happening inside of you is the thought. You see, so in that sense I say thought is space. It creates the space. The space is not in terms of what you are
that is separating.
The question and the questioner, that is the space that I am talking about. So the feeling you have, the feeling of joy, the feeling of happiness, the feeling of boredom, anger. So there is only anger, there is nobody who is angry. So, if there is somebody who is angry, there is a space. You see, the moment you say, I am angry, that implies there are two. So the verb must be knocked off. You see, that is why the verb is the most mysterious part of the language. That gives continuity and links up the subject and the object. I, anger are not two. Am means, you see, I am angry.
The subject
Implies that there is a space. You see, there is only anger there. When there is only anger and nobody who is angry, that is the energy, you see, that will answer your question. You understand? So you the wanting to be free from any one of those things. The anger is the Redeemer. The anger is your Guru. If you can leave that anger alone without knowing what that anger is, so it is an extraordinary outburst of energy. It's a volcano operating there. It's going to burn out everything. It has to burn itself out. The question how, that is an ionization of thought, to use your scientific. A burning, combustion takes place. That is the heat, you see. That is what I meant by the sound. You see, how is a sound? How, when you put yourself, whether you speak loud or inside, you see. How, you see, that how is a sound? You understand? So when that sound burns itself, There is light there.
There is light.
There is light there. It produces light. So the burning of thought, the anger has to burn itself out. Anything, jealousy, anything, any emotion. So there is no separation. You have to separate yourself. Immediately there is an anger, so that you can continue this separateness all along. Actually, when you are angry, you don't know that you are angry. So if I don't do something, you see, I will hit somebody, you will not do any such thing. So that is the duality that I am talking about. Anger and somebody who is angry. There is nobody who is angry. There is nobody who is talking now.
Only that emotion.
The question and answer is one unitary movement. So the answers you are getting from whatever source are your own answers, and they are not my answers. That is the reason why I say my statements have no copyright. So this is your property. The river is flowing, you come with a vessel, you take some water, and the river cannot claim that it belongs to the river. Nor can you claim that it is yours, because the water there and the water here is exactly the same, but at the same time they are two different things. So this cannot claim that this water belongs to the river. You cannot claim that the water belongs to you simply because you have a bucket full of water. The bucket is yours, but the water does not belong to you. So the water does not belong, you see, to me either. So in that sense, in the very nature of things, I cannot claim any copyright for the statements that are coming out. This, I don't know if I have explained. That is the sound and light. When the sound burns itself out, there is light, there is combustion. That is the energy. So the thought in that sense is matter. Thought is matter, thought is space, thought is time. So when the thought, whether it is how or anger or whatever it is, burns itself, I use the word ionization of thought takes place. That means matter is converted into energy. This is constantly taking place because you do not use that thought for any purpose other than maintaining this body. See, it is foolish, absurd, ridiculous to deny what the body demands. So there is no use of you telling yourself that I am going to sleep on a bed of nails, torture this body. You have no right to torture this body. You have no right to deny what the body demands, the food, clothing and shelter. So that thought is useful only for this purpose and no other purpose. So that thought cannot answer any of your questions, cannot solve any of your problems except the basic problems of living. So that is why when the thought burns, people see the light inside. The light you see there inside, you see, and that actually is, but when you do meditation or do any one of those gimmicks, what you are actually doing is you are creating short circuits in this electromagnetic field. Like you see the electric sparks, you see. So you think something is extraordinary. So that light is permanently here because the thought is constantly burning out. All the time. Every time the thought is born, it is burning out because it has no answer. So when you ask the question, what happens? Here I tell you. The question repeats itself. This is an echo chamber. When you ask any question, is there reincarnation? Does God exist? How can I get moksha? So the question repeats itself here. And there is no answer to that question. So something has got to happen to that question. The question here burns itself out. What is here is only energy. So every word that is coming out is an expression of that energy. You understand? So that is why, you see, this is charged with this terrific energy. These words that come out of, you see, the pure energy will certainly, you see, have a tremendous impact. Not to produce any change or anything. So you are in the field of an outflowing dynamo there, you see. That example you should not push it to the logical
No,
thinking.
no.
Whether you like it or not, you see, you cannot even remain silent there because you see, it is disturbing that silence which you want. The silence that is here is an erupting volcano. But the silence you are thinking in terms of that silence, quietness and all that, it has no relationship whatsoever. So anybody who is practicing silence there is disturbed by this. It does not encourage that kind of a silence, but it is. I said that you see the light and sound are interchangeable. When there is a light, there is a sound also there.
Short circuit.
That's a
spark.
Sparks, you see, you think something extraordinary. I see light, blue, green, white. Oh my God, go ahead. You can see any light. Any light you want. You see, you can listen to any sound you want. Brahmanadam, you can listen. So you are projecting that. You are projecting your own ideations and meditations on what you see. You are influencing what you are seeing. So the most important thing is this space and then the time. This is pure and simple scientific matter that I am talking about, not what you read in the textbooks. It is a scientific basis. But a scientist has to think in terms of continuum. Otherwise the whole research collapses. So he has to talk in terms of continuum. So they have come to the point where they say that there is no such thing as matter, there is no such thing as time, there is no such thing as space, but what is called space-time continuum.
Sir, what is the place of this unitary movement in this existence?
What even the whole thing is a unitary movement. Why are you asking the question? The place, huh? That is a fact. That is a fact. And the fact of the matter is it is a movement. That is the reason why I always use the word life is movement. It is moving all the time and it has no direction. You want to give a direction. See, when I say the movement, I literally mean the movement because when you are nodding your head, where is that? You are nodding your head. I don't nod my head in unison with the movement of that. The whole of this being is the movement that is there. So as long as there is life, there is a movement. He is doing something with his ears. He is turning. Every time you see something is happening there that is producing this energy here. It's a movement. So life is movement. The action I am talking about also is the action. The life is action. It is acting all the time. It is responding to everything that is happening there. So life is action, life is movement.
Is that movement is independent, sir?
No, it is one unitary.
It is it comes to that unitary.
The separation is not in its nature. So that is why there is this constant battle. Life and thought, one unitary movement. The thought separates itself for the purpose of a particular kind of action which is essential for the survival of the living organism. That's what I am all the time emphasizing. When once that is met, it is back again in the unitary.
And I think that is why some people say Einstein had come very much near that.
Very near.
Very near that.
When he talks of very much near that. But not quite.
Not quite.
It is discontinuous, you see, always. There is no continuity. Quantum
theory.
Yes, I don't know if I studied 40 years. But the motion and the impact of motion are discontinuous and cannot be predicated. You can't say that. You can't predicate anything. You see. It's a discontinuous thing. But you link up all those things and give a continuity. Somebody there. Without that, there is nothing there. The how is the big question mark.
It is the dark there.
That is the dark. The how has to burn itself up. If you are waiting for an answer either from outside or from inside, it cannot because it's the time. The time. It has invented the timeless, which is a bogus thing. There is no such thing as the timeless at all. Because this tricky time is pursuing what it calls timeless. So that means there is a time here, you see. As long as the time is in operation, we used to write essays, time and timeless. My professor dictated 15, 20 pages and we had to memorize and reproduce it in the question papers. No such thing as timeless at all. Everything is timeless, unfortunately. You see, this is the reincarnation, not that there is a soul which takes its birth next time, you see, next life. And these births and deaths will come to an end at some distant future. No. This is the birth and death that is all the time going on. In this process, this body also is going through the process of physical death and birth. And it is renewing itself. And when once it cannot renew itself, the body drops away. That's all.
Seed, and it will take its own time, and it may not live. Because it's just like the cotton, the bales of it is at one end you put the fire. It penetrates slowly. But you must catch the fire. That's very difficult. The splinters come. But only it will hit some, not others. What is saying? What I am telling is sadhana. At least he admitted he has given a place for sadhana. That's most important. That's one change after this Brahmanaspati yoga. That he has given a place for sadhana also. And yesterday I was ridiculing the saints, but the saints are the saviors of mankind, because otherwise society will not be what it is, at least today. But sages are no doubt far above the saints. To give place to sages, to respect, to regard, it is saints that are necessary. They act as a link between the humanity and the sages. It is there that the role of the saints are required. So we cannot totally throw them out as worthless, third-rate people. I mean, such statements are not correct in the real sense of the word. To bring always the magnetic field, the current, the sound, the light, interpretation, and all those things. And the Vedic chanting is the content of it. I don't know, he says. The effect of it is not there, he says. But because someone has taken too much and want to rely merely on Vedas, just to condemn the reliance too much on that, because it ultimately cannot lead, no doubt. But it has got its role to play. So that he wants to just superficially overcome it and give an impression that they are useless, worthless, and have no value at all. That is too much of a statement for anyone to accept, and it is difficult also to accept. Much less with that. Really good. And a cause for everything, for mystic experience, so that you want the repetition of it, reproduction of it, and continuity of it. You want more of it. That's the mystery. That will take you away from the path and go. It's a big understanding. Let's speak on the siddhis and small things. Sarah types. So that's why many will caught up in that. And it is so glamoring and glittering, evaluate, and finally they will bring the liberation also. So in that aspect, he is very vehement and very caustic and bitter also, and he has become small visions. So his idea in condemning them is not to make them feel blast them or anything of the sort. But when you are after a diamond, you have to go for the coal and with that idea, condemns, blasts, ridicules, and push them aside and shakes them vigorously. So we should not stop there and proceed further and really search what they want.
Poetry. That's a bird literature, sir. Swamiji, may I ask you a question? Can you please tell us Why we are finding it difficult to understand Yuji?
Difficult?
To understand Yuji?
Because you have already a frame of mind which you have built up. You are sticking it so steadily. And however much once you feel it is not worth sticking on to it, still the adhesive is so strong, you cannot allow it to fall out.
That is the totality of thoughts and experiences. So you have no such thing as the totality of your experiences and totality of your thoughts, because the thoughts are disconnected and disjoint. So you use the world mind for functioning in this world intelligently and sanely. So there is no such thing as your mind or my mind. I don't know.
Yeah. Like that river water you said,
Yes.
you see, vessel is yours, the water is not
So
yours. Yeah.
that is passed on from generation to generation. So every time you are angry, every time you are violent, every time you are this, you are that, you see, your thinking about it is for or against it is being added to that, you see.
Yeah.
Cumulative. The knowledge, cumulative knowledge is going on and on. So what is the basic question? You see? What is the basic question?
The basic question is we have, you see, every time we are thinking of that realization or self-realization, knowing who you are and what not, ultimately it comes to
You see, if you pose yourself this question, who am I?
Yeah.
There is an assumption that, you see, there is something there
Yeah.
which you should know for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So who am I, for example, you see, question. Why do you ask that question?
Because, you see, there is a contradictory feeling within us. You see, as you said, there is that knowledge. This body is not mine, there is something else separate from this.
Yes.
And that is the eternal one.
Exactly. That is why there is this question. You separate this body,
Yes.
and you think that there is some entity there,
Yeah.
which is not part of this body,
Yeah.
which has an independent existence of its own. That is why you are asking this question.
Yes.
I, yourself, or whatever
Whatever
it
really
is,
terminology.
whatever it is. So, whatever you see there, the I, the self, the mind, soul, psyche, is the one that is created by the knowledge you have about them. That is all that I am trying to say. What is there is only the knowledge. There is nothing else other than the knowledge. It's very interesting, you see, to put it that way. Your mind, I don't even recall what you said. You see, the mind.
Mind fast
It's
is
very
mind-
very interesting. It's very interesting. You see.
Mind fast is mad.
Mind fast is mad. Mind is
Normal is mad.
mad.
Mind slowed is sane.
Sane.
Mind stopped is God.
Is God.
Not necessarily by this person.
I understand. You see, I discovered for myself, and by myself, that there is no self to realize. Yes. That is the realization I am talking about. And so that comes as a shattering blow to you. It hits you like a thunderbolt because you have invested everything, all the eggs in one basket, and you want to achieve this goal which you have set before yourself, is self-realization. And in the end, you suddenly discover that there is no self to discover, there is no self to realize. What the hell have you been doing all in your life? No? So that applies to mind also. So what is mind? That is my question. Any one of those questions, what is self, what is mind, what is thought? You pose that question to yourself. And you are waiting for an answer. See? What is mind? This question is the mind. You see? So it is waiting for an answer. What comes inside of your head in answer to that question is the knowledge, the definitions. Mind is this, mind is not that. So you think these are two different things. So if they are not moving, there is something that is slowing down.
No, sir, it's a very interesting thing.
I didn't say
No,
any
no.
interesting.
That means the questioning itself is the mind.
The question,
Yes,
the
question
question
comes
is
of the mind. Yes.
the one that asks the question is the mind.
Itself is the mind.
As itself the mind. And that question is born out of the assumption that there is such a thing as mind. So whatever you experience there, whether it is self or mind or Atman, God, whatever you call it,
That is experienced by the mind only.
by this, the knowledge creates the experience. Without knowledge, you cannot experience anything.
That you have very nicely
And
explained.
this experience strengthens that knowledge. That's the vicious circle, you see. Huh? See, you forget that the experience which you have experienced is the result of the knowledge which is not yours.
You're trying to come out of it, but still it is dragging it inside.
So all these questions are the variations of the same question, the basic question: what is thought, what is self, what is mind? You know, any question you want to put is the variation of the same question. What is thought? This is my favorite question. Well, what is thought? This question is the thought. So the answers you get inside of you are the definitions given by others. I am not interested in that at all, you see. The psychologists have their own definitions, the Vedantins have their own definitions, the philosophers have their own definitions, everybody has his or her own definition. So that is all that you get there inside of you. You understand? So you are not interested in the question anymore, because what is going on there, you think is the answer to those questions, and that is the thought.
That preconceived knowledge.
The knowledge, you see, the knowledge that you have. So if you reject that knowledge, which you cannot so easily, the question cannot stay there, because the question is born out of that knowledge. You want to know something about thought. So we stick to this: what is thought? That applies to your mind also, yourself, or any other question. I want to find out. I don't want to find out.
You have already found it.
I want to find out. I have to put it that way. What is thought? What is thought? You see. So what happens when you do not accept the answers given by others? What happens? Something has got to happen to that question. What is thought? The thought burns itself out because it has no answer, except the answers we know. See, we are not satisfied with the answers given by others. That is why you are asking the question. You come to a man who you think is a realized man. So you put the same old question that has been put hundreds of times by hundreds of people, and the answers have been given to those questions. You put this question to that man because you want a confirmation of what you know. What you know. Or if he says something which doesn't fit into the framework of yours, you say you don't agree with it. So you have to find out the answer for that question.
Shall we say it is something like...
So what I am saying is, so what happens to that question, that is very important. You have to separate yourself and look at the thought. What separates you from the question
also separates from the thought.
The knowledge itself, you see. What you see there is the thought, and this question is born out of that. I don't know.
Yes, it is born out of that.
So if that is not there, this question cannot at all arise.
Question of its birth doesn't arise.
This question is born out of the knowledge you have about them. The child does not ask the question. She asks some other questions. So all our questions are born out of the knowledge we have about those things. So if that knowledge is completely and totally rejected, the question also goes with it. I don't know.
Yeah.
So it doesn't go out along with it. So something has got to happen to the question. That question burns itself out, and what you have there in the place of this question is the energy. So this question, thought, is matter, is what I am saying. So the matter is not turned into energy, it burns itself. The question burns itself.
Yeah.
You can experience that, you see. That's why I am talking. It's not what is there in the books, you see. So every time I ask the question, you see, it is something new. I have to answer. I have to find the answer for myself. Not what the answer I found yesterday is not the answer. But when the question cannot stay there, something has got to happen to the question, and the question burns itself out, and what is there is energy. So thought is matter. Yes. So when that burns itself out, what is there is energy, and which is the manifestation of life. So in other words, life, energy, they are synonymous terms. Consciousness, you mentioned that word, is also a synonymous term for life. So you have no way of touching, you see, the consciousness anywhere because it's too immense. You cannot know anything about that consciousness. It has incredible depths. It can only be aware of itself, be conscious of itself, but you have no way of knowing anything about that consciousness. It's too immense.
Not even the fringe of it.
Not even the fringe of it. The consciousness we are talking about is only thought. You become conscious of your feelings, you become conscious of your things around you, but don't talk of that consciousness at all. There's no use in talking about it as cosmic consciousness, divine consciousness. They don't mean anything at all. You have no way of knowing anything about life because this dead structure cannot touch that, cannot capture that, cannot contain that, cannot give expression to it. So you have to leave that alone. I don't know if you are going off the tangent. So what is the basic question? See, when I say thought is matter, I don't mean that you create matter.
No. It is linked with the matter.
You don't create anything, you see. But as far you have not created the clock, you have not created the tree out there, you have not created me, you have not created the world. But you establish your relationship with the things around you and with the things inside of you through this thought. For example, this I always give there is a sensation of touch.
Yeah.
The sensation of touch does not tell you whether this is hard or soft.
Linked with the knowledge.
The knowledge, you see, the thought interferes and tells you that this is hard. See, the moment the thought comes into the picture here, it has created the space. You understand? The space is not mysterious.
Yes.
So in that sense, thought creates a space. The thought, otherwise there is no space here. When there is no space here, you can't say whether this is hard or soft, whether this is animate or inanimate. So it is the thought that creates the space and tells you that this is hard, that this has no life, and so you say that this is an inanimate object and this is an animate object. But where exactly is the energy? Is it here in your hand or is it down here in this stone on which you... Where is it? You don't know. You have no way of knowing that at all. So it is the thought that has created the matter in the sense that it has given the solidity, the substance, and the hardness to this object. I'm not speaking metaphysics. I'm just explaining to you the anatomy of the sensory perceptions, what is going on, and what the thought that plays in this. That's all that I'm saying. So you have, with the help of thought, experienced the hardness of this object. So this is matter. So when the thought is not there, what is there is only energy and not matter. So where is that energy? Is it in your hand or is it in this hard cement block? Where is it? You don't know. So it is all one energy. I don't know if I make myself. It is not that the matter turns itself into energy, but there is always energy but no matter at all. That is what you see probably Einstein meant when he said there is no such thing as matter at all. In the beginning we studied about matter. In the final analysis you can't talk of matter at all because there is no such thing as matter at all. So in that sense, thought is matter because it is the thought that has created this matter. It is the thought that has created this space. And if you want to know something about what I am talking about, is only through thought, so the time has come into the picture. So in that sense, thought is matter, thought is space, thought is time. Hmm? So what I am saying cannot be experienced by you except through the help of thought. So in other words, as long as that movement of thought is there, so long it is not possible for you to understand what I am talking about. When that is not there, there is no need for you to understand. It is in that sense I say that there is no need, there is nothing to understand. As long as the thought is there, you want to understand what I am talking about. So you cannot understand that through that movement of thought anything that I am talking about, except as concepts. So your reference point to those concepts are either philosophical or scientific or psychological.
Wherever we go, it comes to the same.
You have to come to
same
the
thing,
same.
same thing.
Yes.
Wherever you start, whatever comes, you start. But in a way, I was thinking when I said the sound created this universe, or
See,
the thought created.
in
the
other
universe.
words, you cannot separate sound from light and light from sound.
But in our normal concept,
We
right,
have to.
you see,
We have to.
you see, this building is constructed. First, it has come as a thought in the mind of the engineer.
So in that sense, you have created this. But now you see your relationship with that is only through thought. You have not created that.
We have placed it.
You know, you have established a relationship with that object out there. Doesn't matter who created it, only through thought.
That is how later I understood about it. Or if you want to get something done, you must give a command. And
No,
just-
you are-
that is also through sound again. See, this is created. That is how I had understood. But this is more classical way of understanding. That is how I had understood.
No, I don't know. Sir, taking down notes.
How does all this practically matter?
It has no value at all.
What does it say about the matter of the universe?
Because the questions,
No, sir, I'm asking you sincerely.
it is not
How does
good.
it actually practically help me?
Not
Whether I know
at all.
this is energy or matter.
It doesn't help you at all.
As far as I can see, the hard thing is a matter.
It doesn't help you at all.
How can I say this is not thing?
That I myself saying that it's not going to help you at all. Philosophical stuff.
But still, whatever you say, all emotions are very real to us. Whatever the emotions.
Why do you turn them into problems? That's my question. Real, they cannot be problems. You want to be rid of them.
Why do you want to get rid of them? Or why do you want to seek
Or you
something
want to-
else?
No, if they are real, they cannot cause you any problem.
So suppose the desire comes. Some desire is come.
You see,
If
listen,
he is not satisfied, then
I
only
have,
the
I
desire
have,
comes.
I have talked about this desire umpteen number of times. Umpteen number of times. It is not the desire that is really the problem. Because if the desire is not there, you are dead. The desire is life. Because there is life, because this is living, the desire is born there. It is not the desire that is the problem. It is the thinking about the desire that creates the problem.
But he cannot escape from it.
That is exactly what I am saying. You cannot leave the desire alone. Because we have all been turned into neurotic beings through the help of this wonderful culture we are so proud of.
Not anymore. Not anymore.
So proud.
No, even without that, that will be there.
How can it be? Tell me.
For example, desiring a thing, suppose if it is not getting. Leave alone
Let-
culture.
all
and
right,
other things.
no, listen. There is a desire there. Assuming for a moment that there is a desire. What happens to that desire?
I do not know.
No,
I
no,
say
no,
just I am desiring to get.
No, you are not. You see, you desire now. You see, we are talking about these things which are not in operation at this moment. That is really the problem. See, you can never look at the desire. It is not possible for you to separate yourself from what you call desire. The moment you recognize that there is a desire, all the other problems are there. The desire as such can never be a problem. Thinking about the desire, the very recognition that there is a desire means that you have begun to think about it. The recognition and the naming. First you recognize that there is a desire. That means there is already a separation. There is somebody who is recognizing the desire. You can't recognize the desire as desire. I don't know. You have to name that desire. The desire is already acting. No, the desire is already acting there. That is the action. There is already an action. The birth of the desire there is the action. The life is action. So the moment you recognize desire, you have separated yourself from the desire. Then begins the problem, fulfillment of the desire or the suppression of the desire. So how are you going to suppress the desire? You are not doing anything. You are thinking about that. You say, how to suppress this desire or how to fulfill that desire. So you are thinking now. So it is the thinking that has created the problem.